May you lead a gentle life.
The last concert that Green Ginger were able to play was in Atlanta in November 2018. Since then, travel restrictions have meant that we couldn't get together again. And we thought, what do we do? Well, we know a lot of interesting people, so why don't we get together and have a chat with them and find out some of their interesting stories.
Sunday, all on a day, she dressed herself in man's array, with a sword and a pistol all by her side, to meet her true love and waited bride.
How important is Martin Carthy? That's, you know, it's impossible to measure his importance, I think, if you play traditional music.
My mother didn't need deadly spite, for she sent thieves in the dark of the night. But my servants all took flight, they robbed my flower, they slew my knight.
I think there's a sort of ongoing joke amongst traditional musicians that, you know, there is no song that you can record that Martin Carthy hasn't already recorded at some point. So, you know, he's been there and done it all and influenced most of us on the way. Martin Carthy, you know, he wasn't the man who invented alternative tunings on the guitar. And certainly in the sort of late 50s, early 60s, there were a number of guitarists who were associated with, I suppose, what you would call folk, traditional and otherwise. And they started messing around with those tunings, most notably Davy Graham. But Martin Carthy's realization, I think, was that, you know, that there were certain tunings that suited traditional songs. And actually they suited them probably because they removed chords. Not entirely, obviously, but they removed, you know, the ease with which you could play a chord on a guitar. So you tended not to. And in doing so, he invented a style of accompanying himself that was not a million miles away from an unaccompanied folk song. You know, if you take the idea that a traditional song would usually have been unaccompanied when it was sung in the fields or in the pubs, you know, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, and that the idea that the guitar is a relatively recent invention, or certainly a relatively recent, the idea of a guitar accompanying a traditional song is a relatively recent idea, relatively modern idea. Martin Carthy realized that he could, with his tunings, he could remove some of those harmonic style.
See, today we're lauding the singers, you know, and the kids don't want to play guitar anymore. They want to sing. And so a guitarist, solo guitarist, has an extra burden because they've got to engage the audience and create emotion with their instrument, not with the lyrics. So that formula coming out, you get people excited, you get them patting their foot, you know, and then, you know, then you can move on to something more, you know, slower, more ballads or whatever. but they also understand that it's the entertainment that makes it happen for them.
Beethoven's favorite dance.
Tommy Emmanuel's been doing little at-home concerts from his room in L.A. recently. And the other day I was watching one of those, and he came out and he was talking about tuning. And he said, something that I do, I make sure that whenever I have a concert, before I walk on stage, I'm tuned up, I'm ready to go. I walk out on stage and I start entertaining people right now. And that's his part of his stick, because he walks out and the energy in the room goes up immediately because he's out there playing something that gets you excited. And Frank and Vinny are, they're kind of the same way. They come out and there's no tuning. They're out there and they're doing a song.
Working with Frank Vignola and Vinny Raniolo, for me, is one of the highs of my musical life, because they're guitar nuts like me, and we just love to play together, and we have a fantastic chemistry together. And when we're on tour, we do nothing but play together all the time, and that's where the magic comes in. That's where you're pushing each other and you're trying to expand the limits of what you're doing, and then just try to knock people over with it, And working with Frank and Vinny is just flying your kite.
Decided I'd start writing songs, largely through having my heart broken several times, and I think I'd probably spent about 4 or 5 years just listening to stuff and trying to write stuff, and whenever I tried to come out with something, it just sounded cliched or derivative or something. So it took me a long time before I actually wrote songs of my own, so it's hard to say what directly influenced which, so perhaps not directly, no.
Obviously, without naming songs, I hasten to add, how much of your writing comes from personal experience?
Well, a lot. I mean, vast majority of it, really. I mean, I think what makes me want to write a song is sometimes it's because I think, I'd better write a song, but mainly it's if I have an emotional experience. So it doesn't mean that I'll necessarily write about that, or that it will come out straight away in a song there and then. It might be 10 years later, you know, but like Winter Hill, that was an emotional experience, you know, walking up that hill and the fantastic view, you know. So, and often also when I have time on my own, which is not very often, you know, I'm very rarely on my own, really. And so I often, if I am on my own for a few hours and I'm doing something on my own, then an idea will come. So probably could have been a much more prolific songwriter if I was living on my own, but and not working with other people. But yeah, so yes, I was not all of them, but even the songs which are obviously not about me, there's usually some emotional experience in the past which is coming out, I think. Yeah. I mean, it's to me, music is supposed to transport you somewhere else and get you there.
The rain on my window dried in the night. All day today, it's been fine and right. And down by the shoreline, water's so clear. It's colder than it should be this time of year. Did I tell you that I walked along the coast to Santa Bay? Did I tell you that I didn't see a soul all day? Say how long I stood there looking at the view. Did I tell you that I miss you? 'Cause by the way I do.
I moved over here in 2005. An Irish pub called Raglan Road opened over here, and a friend of mine, a great accordion player from Dublin, Peter Brown, was asked to put a band together for it. So I moved over with my wife, ended up doing that for a while. Then I've been away touring with different bands over the years, like Lunacer and Grada. And then in March, when the pandemic hit, we were on tour, everything got pulled, every concert, and so I came home, and in June, the Irish pub where I used to work asked me to come back. And Dave was in Chicago thinking about what to do, because everything in Chicago was shut down. And so I brought Dave down to sing in the Irish pub.
Please don't tell me that they make you dress up as leprechauns and go to Epcot.
No, we're all right. We can wear what we want, thankfully.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in just a few minutes. In the meantime, let's give it up for Colin, Farrell, and David Curley.
Like Bobby said, my name's Colin, and this is Dave, and we're playing some Irish traditional music here.
How do you find playing the same place, you know, playing at the Raglan Road? Is it the same tunes you play every night, or do you vary it around? What's the crowd like?
Very different every night. Colin, every night starts off with, we take requests. So if it's within reach and we could do it, we have pretty decent long breaks. So even if
Dave's quick, like we do get the same requests all the time. The Wilds Rover, the Galway Girl, Whiskey in the Jar.
If you want to join in, it's very easy. The words in each.
We're there to entertain. Why would we do songs people don't want to hear? I'll play anything if it makes the crowd, if it makes people enjoy it. So we don't, like I say, we have no shame. We did our first Led Zeppelin song last night.
Yeah.
On air,
what I'm always thinking is if you sing one song, then people associate that song with another collection of songs. So Led Zeppelin, I'm in the back of my mind going, what band or song are they going to ask for now? Like, do this heavy death metal Metallica song, because they link them together, you know. So yeah, it is amazing. One of the things I noticed first, or like when I got there, I realized that the people that are in front of me, typically when they come like a paid concert, they come to see a show and they're there specifically to see me. The people that are in front of us now are there to have dinner, relax after being at the Disney parks for the day, entertain the kids and keep them quiet for a couple of hours. You know, there's an element of that. And there's also people that come because they want to see entertainment. So you've got the whole mix. So you're not their sole focus. So if you do a song and you kind of are new to you and you kind of wobble your way through and it doesn't go perfectly, it goes by very quickly and you're on to the next thing. They're not going, oh, you know, they're not watching every little thing you do.
I am. So you can also, when you're doing a residency like that as well, you'd think if you're not doing it right, it doesn't help you playing. If you're like, it's not like you'd think if you're playing every night, your playing's going to get better. But if you're getting bad habits and you get sloppy. You have to. That's another thing this year. I never really practice. There's a difference in practicing and playing, and I'm going to start. I'm going to start practicing. That's the plan anyway.
In the first time I accessed internet in the year 2000-2001 with a dial-up connection, I looked up mandolin and music. I just searched that. Bill Monroe came up. And to be honest, I didn't like it. I didn't like the mandolin, like the singing. I didn't like anything about it when I heard it the first time. And another album which came up was, David Grisman's a compilation album called The Life of Sorrow. That's a great album, and it's been my favorite through and through. And I really loved the mandolin on that. And I was like, what is this mandolin? I've never heard the mandolin being played like this. And that's when I dived deep and I searched more, read up about his influences, and it led me back to Bill Monroe. And after a while, I really started enjoying Monroe's music. But it all happened through David Grisman's mandolin.
Now, I've seen videos on YouTube of you playing a Bill Monroe type riff to a Bengali folk song. What made you do that?
Actually, it was a random jam which I was doing with Vasudev Das Baul. And I was making him hear Southern Flavor by Bill Monroe. And he suddenly broke out and started singing this Bengali song called Kalia. And we were like, wow, that works perfectly together.
He's a baul, he's a wandering minstrel of West Bengal, and he is an example of the folk musicians, who perform in, open spaces, public spaces. There is a huge culture of them performing on train rides. So, every time we take a train down to Shantiniketan, we will have these bauls singing, at the top of their voices, singing all these folk songs
in a train.
They
are wandering minstrels, and they would sing in a train, they would sing on the street. So Vasudev Da is a dear friend of mine, and he believes in that tradition. I mean, he's a baul himself.
And it's also a philosophy, a principle of life, and the music is sort of emblematic of the philosophy of life that they believe in. So it's very spiritual, very metaphysical, but couched in everyday terms. So when you listen to a song, you think that it's talking about something, but actually it means something completely different.
I dreamed a dream the other night. Lowlands away, my John.
I think, when I've been researching the music, I've tried to go back as far as I can to the original lyrics or the earliest lyrics. And you do see some connections between the Celtic countries, and a certain sound, but they do have a unique. I think as well we've been influenced a lot by some of the English folk. So some of our harmonies are a little bit more leaning towards some of the earlier kind of English folk music, but it does have different flavors in there as well. So we've kind of brought in.
We love film music as well, so that's a big inspiration for us. So having that Celtic feel, but also because of course we play classical music originally. That's what we were doing. But
I was going to ask about your harmonies, which you're rightly well known for. Do they come from classical? I mean, are you kind of like seeing chords and notes within a chord, or like most people do it, me with my 3 notes? I mean, does it just come naturally?
Well, I think we grew up listening to a lot of Simon and Garfunkel and Clannad. They had a big influence on our harmonies. And we just tend to be very experimental when we're working on those, and just see what works and see what doesn't work.
I can't read music, and I've never had a music lesson. And I went into a folk club in Boston, in Lincolnshire, and I saw Dave and Tony Arthur. Tony Arthur was fiddling away on a little English concertina, the one with the thumb grips. And I thought, I might be able to do that, because it didn't involve holding any strings down and knowing anything about chords. So I went, this is about 1971, I went to the Salvation Army headquarters in Judd Street, which was near King's Cross, and they had a big glass case full of concertinas. And I bought this one. The man kept saying, "You want that one? You want that one in the corner?" And it was because he was an old Salvation Army captain, and he had old gnarled fingers. He couldn't play anymore because of his rheumatism. And this one is in the case. He said, "Want that one?" Now, I didn't know it's a duet, which is the most complicated, fiendish device ever invented by anybody. And it was 35 quid, which was like two weeks' groceries or more in those days. And I bought it. I took it home, and Jory went mad. It's 35 quid. Have we got 35 quid? And it's insured for about £8,000 now. Look at that, 1926. Dig a little deeper in the well, boys, you gotta dig a little deeper in the well. If you want a good cool drink of water, you gotta dig a little deeper in the well. Dig a little deeper in the well, boys, you gotta dig a little deeper in the well. If you want a good cool drink of water, you gotta dig a little deeper in the well.
I've always thought of the concertina with sea shanties and things like that. But one of the things I've also read is that actually concertinas aren't very good when they get wet.
I have had mine at sea, but no, they didn't last long. And they'd literally sort of buy them, play them for a short time, throw them away. They had cardboard bellows and, they're pretty manky instruments. But they were very cheap when they were very popular in the 19th century. But they weren't, in truth, the best instrument to have on a ship in salty and damp air, or waves breaking over you. It's a bit of a fallacy. Same with melodeons. Any other sort of instrument like that? Any reed instrument? No more so than a fiddle. You just don't want to expose an instrument like this to the elements, do you?
Do you have to tune it?
Yeah, I don't go near it. I use a specialist. There's a guy called Nigel Stura down here in Devon. He's one of about 5 craftsmen. There's about 5 others in America who can do it. And you leave the tuning of them to the people who know what they're doing. And I wouldn't say it's perfect, but this is in standard sort of concert pitch. But you start messing around, adding metal to each little reed, or scraping. I mean, scraping metal off is the worst thing, because if you take more than you need, you're jiggered then. There's a couple of thousand parts in here. Springs, screws, pads, bushings. It's ridiculous. I mean, it is like a jack in the box. When you take it to bits, you really, you want to be in the bath, really, because everything goes ping.
Not bad value for 35 quid then.
35, that's the best 35 quid I ever spent.